It's January 29th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with North Korea's submarine-launched cruise missiles. The North says the regime fired its strategic cruise missiles Bruhasar 3-31 from a submarine, with leader Kim Jong-un overseeing the test fire. The U.S. warned it will do what it has to do to make sure that it can protect itself and its allies. 3 U.S. troops were killed and 25 were injured in a drone attack on a base in northeast Jordan, marking the first time U.S. troops have been killed by enemy fire since the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas war. President Joe Biden says his country will continue to fight terrorism and hold the perpetrators to account. South Korea last year saw record overseas sales of instant rice products like frozen kimbap on the back of rising popularity and demand for Korean food globally. Over half of the products went to the U.S., followed by Vietnam, the EU, and Japan. North Korea fired its newest Bruhasar 3-31 strategic cruise missiles again over the weekend, but this time from a submarine. The leader, Kim Jong-un, was at the site stressing the importance of the Navy's nuclear armament. Our Choi Min-jung has our top story this morning.
North Korea is believed to have fired several submarine-launched cruise missiles off its eastern coast on Sunday under the supervision of the regime's leader, Kim Jong-un. State-run newspaper The Nodongshinmun reported Monday that the Bulhwasar 3-31 strategic cruise missiles were launched from a submarine. North Korea had test-fired this cruise missile for the very first time just 4 days before Sunday's launch. The missile is believed to be nuclear-capable. Kim Jong-un, who oversaw the launch, reportedly stressed that the Navy's nuclear armament is an urgent national agenda. According to the Nodongshinmun, the missiles launched on Sunday flew for 7,421 and 7,445 seconds before hitting preset island targets in the East Sea. Given that 2 flight times were reported, it appears that 2 missiles were fired. More details, including flight distances, were not disclosed. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said Sunday that it had detected several cruise missiles at around 8 a.m. over waters near North Korea's eastern port city of Sinpo, the location of the regime's largest submarine base. The last time Pyongyang fired SLCMs near Sinpo was in March last year. Seoul's military said it has been closely coordinating with the U.S. to monitor additional signs of provocations by the North. Meanwhile, a U.S. State Department spokesperson reportedly urged Pyongyang to refrain from further, quote, threatening activity and called on the regime to engage in dialogue. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Now, these cruise missiles do not violate UN Security Council resolutions, yet they pose a great threat. But how much and to what extent? We're joined by Dr. Bruce Bennett this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
The missiles fired in the East Coast on Sunday came just 4 days after the North test-fired new strategic cruise missiles, Bruhasar 3-31 from the West Coast. What's the North's intentions this time?
Well, apparently the missiles fired last week were fired from a ground launcher. These missiles were reportedly fired from a submarine. So you fire from a ground launcher to test the missile initially. Then you want to make sure it will fly from the submarine. So this was a second level of test for them in their development process.
Then the next question is, how much of a threat would they be, the ones fired from a submarine?
Well, the answer is 2 or 3 of them, depending upon what will fit on the submarine, would be a fairly serious threat in a surprise case. Much after that, probably before they can reload, that submarine would die in a war-fighting situation. So yes, a few of those missiles would be a serious threat. But in the long term, beyond that, not a lot. Submarines just aren't going, North Korean submarines just aren't going to survive in a conflict.
I see. The North claims the missiles were launched from a submarine. They were the Bruhasar 3-31. They are the same as the ones that they fired last week, just firing them from a submarine, right?
As far as we know, that's the case. Now, you never know with North Korea because we don't have access to what's really being fired. but that's what they've claimed.
Then why is North Korea firing cruise missiles lately? I mean, they've been launching lots of ballistic missiles. Is the North trying to develop all kinds of missiles? Is that what they're trying to do here?
Well, certainly they're trying to develop all kinds of missiles. The answer to your question is we don't know for sure. The North isn't telling us. But what we do know is the North is sending a lot of ballistic missiles to Russia to use in Ukraine. North Korea may not have produced as many of the theater missiles as they've been implying. And as a result, they may be sending much of their inventories that they already have if they hadn't produced as much as they've been implying they did. North Korea wants it to appear that there are a wide range of threats that they could pose against South Korea and the United States, so that they're intimidating, so that they coerce us, they deter us from taking action against them. That diversity of threat is what they're trying to impress upon us. But if they haven't made many of each of these kinds of missiles, not clear that it's all that much of a threat.
Right. Dr. Bennett, it's believed that the North will continue to carry out provocations up until the April general elections here in South Korea. Will such action by the North affect the situations on the Korean Peninsula? What's your take on this?
Well, I think we also have to recognize that when North Korea does any missile test, it's really doing it for political purposes as well, both internal North Korean politics to prove that Kim Jong-un is a capable leader able to accomplish things, and for external politics to put pressure on South Korea and the U.S. to deter our actions and so forth. So absolutely, the regime is going to continue testing up through the elections. They want to try and make it difficult for President Yoon's party to take strong results into the elections. And so they're going to do that to try to influence the elections. We can expect it beyond that. They're also going to try and influence the American election in November. How much effect they're going to have in each case is unknown, but certainly that seems to be what they're trying to do.
Well, Dr. Bennett, North Korea has been firing ballistic missiles and now cruise missiles. What other provocations can we be concerned of then?
Oh, that's the excellent question right now. There's a lot of discussion in the community about North Korea actually carrying out some limited attacks. You know, as the North Korean number of nuclear weapons increase, they gain an effect called a nuclear shadow. That is, when they carry out a conventional attack, it's U.S. and South Korea are sometimes reluctant to respond for fear that that will lead to escalation that could lead to a nuclear attack against us. So they're hoping that they can go and make even more extreme provocations, including conventional attacks. They could be special forces attacks, they could be attacks with missiles. A wide variety of things are possible. And I suspect that that's the direction Kim is headed. One of the patterns for North Korea is they escalate their provocations over time. They kind of are conditioning us to get used to more and more severe provocations.
Right. It's almost like we're getting used to those missile launches. All right, Dr. Bennett, thank you so much for your insights. As always, we appreciate it.
Oh, you're certainly welcome. Thank you.
For the first time in Gaza, 3 U.S. soldiers were killed and dozens were injured after a drone struck U.S. forces stationed in northeastern Jordan near the Syrian border on Sunday. Washington blamed Iran-backed groups for the deadly attack. Lee Seung-ja has more.
U.S. officials say 3 U.S. servicemen were killed after an unmanned aerial drone launched an attack against U.S. forces stationed in northeastern Jordan near the Syrian border. During the attack, dozens of others were injured, with many being evaluated for possible traumatic brain injury. An umbrella organization of hardline Iran-backed militant groups, the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, claimed responsibility for the attack. According to U.S. President Joe Biden, Washington is still gathering information on the attack, but said that it was carried out by radical Iran-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq. In a statement released by the White House, Biden vowed to carry on fighting against terrorism and said the U.S. will hold all those involved responsible. Since the outbreak of war in Gaza on October 7th last year, U.S. forces have come under attack more than 150 times by Iran-backed groups in the Middle East, leading to at least 70 injuries prior to Sunday's attack. Meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister's office said on Sunday that a four-way meeting between the U.S., Israel, Qatar, and Egypt took place in Europe to discuss a potential deal to release all Israeli hostages held by Hamas in exchange for a 2-month-long ceasefire. The meeting was later confirmed to have been held in Paris and was described by the Prime Minister's office as being constructive. According to U.S. officials speaking to the Associated Press on Saturday, the hostage deal would be carried out in 2 phases. In the first phase, fighting would stop to allow for the remaining women, elderly, and wounded hostages to be released by the militant group. Israel and Hamas would then work out details during the first 30 days of the pause for the second phase, where Israeli soldiers and civilian men would be released. Israel says 132 hostages remain in captivity, including 2 children. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Climate activists in France dumped soup at one of the most priceless artworks, Mona Lisa, in Paris, while French farmers continued protests demanding better pay and living conditions. Our Lee Si-ho reports.
Video footage shows 2 women hurling soup at the protective glass in front of the iconic Mona Lisa painting in Paris' Louvre Museum on Sunday. Before being led away by security guards, they stood in front of the painting and shouted, "What is more important, art or the right to a healthy and durable diet? And farmers are dying on the job." They are activists representing an organization called Food Response, which shared a statement saying the protest aims to draw attention to the need to protect the environment and sources of food. This came more than a week into protests from French farmers who are demanding better pay and living conditions, and just hours before the French government deployed a large number of security forces around Paris as the angry farmers prepared to mount a siege on the French capital. The farmers are demanding better purchase prices for produce by supermarket and industrial buyers, changes to complex environmental regulations, and the phasing out of a tax break on diesel for farm equipment. Throughout France, farmers' unions have set up roadblocks to increase pressure on the government.
And with all the health and climate issues, the lack of respect for agriculture and farmers, we desire to be able to live with dignity from our profession, and the government will have to listen to us and hear us.
In response, the government announced a series of measures on Friday which included an end to diesel fuel taxes for farm vehicles. France would also remain opposed to the European Union signing a free trade deal with the Mercosur trade group, of which Latin American countries are part, which may result in what farmers say is unfair competition for French farmers. Despite the concessions, major farmers' unions say their protests will continue as the government's plan doesn't go far enough. Lee Si-ho, Arirang News.
The U.S. and China will hold a meeting to discuss fentanyl this week, aimed at curbing the flow of illicit drugs into America. According to Reuters, citing a senior U.S. official on Sunday, the first U.S. China working group meeting on fentanyl precursor chemicals will be held on Tuesday in Beijing, a follow-up to the summit between U.S. President Joe Biden and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in November. The U.S. official added that China is believed to have started action against Chinese precursor chemical companies, and that the U.S. will pursue law enforcement actions and impose controls on those precursors. The U.S. has said that China is the primary source of the precursor chemicals used for fentanyl by drug hurls and cartels in Mexico. China denies the claim. With the popularity of Korean food on the rise, instant rice products have seen record sales overseas. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs and the Korea Agro-Fisheries and Food Trade Corporation on Monday, exports of processed rice foods last year came to over $270 million, the highest recorded figure to date. The amount was a 9.5% jump from the previous year. Exports of processed rice products have increased every year since 2015, with the popularity of products like instant rice, frozen kimbap, and tteokbokki. By country, the U.S. accounted for more than half of the total at over $114 million. Now over in Gangneung, where young athletes are showing off their skills and talent at the 2024 Gangwon Winter Youth Olympics. Not only are they enjoying winter spirit, but they are also making their own histories at the games. Our Song Yujin has their stories.
Jonathan Lurimi's silver medal at Gangwon 2024 is not just his first Olympic medal. It's also Tunisia's first Winter Olympic medal. The 17-year-old bobsledder is one of 3 athletes writing history at the 2024 Gangwon Youth Winter Olympic Games. Tunisia is among the 5 countries making their Winter Olympic debuts.
Oh, it's a crazy feeling. Unbelievable. I didn't think it was possible to go this far when I started with the sport, and now I hope being an idol for them to try winter sports so that it can be bigger in Tunisia.
Jonathan's journey with bobsleigh began through the Pyeongchang 2018 Legacy Foundation's New Horizons Academy.
Athletes from countries that don't really have winters can't really give winter sports a try. But the Olympics should be something everyone can enjoy. Projects like the New Horizon Academy help these athletes learn winter sports and pursue their dreams. Later, they could become Winter Olympic ambassadors in their own countries.
Established in 2019, the Pyeongchang 2018 Legacy Foundation aims to preserve competition venues and teach Olympic values to the next generation. In 2022, its New Horizons Academy invited some 100 athletes from 27 countries, mainly from Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia, to Korea.
We actually had them try every different winter sport. And every time they did a sport, we kind of measured their performances. And then after the 2-week program, we invited them back in the winter, but this time we designated sports for them.
Training camps were held every summer and winter leading up to the Gangwon 2024 qualification period last year. In December, 25 athletes, including Jonathan, qualified for the games. Also among them is Thai bobsledder Agnes Kampeol, who won silver at the women's monobob this time. Now, with less than a week remaining until the games draw to a close, the project has set its sights on a bigger goal.
Starting next month, some of these kids, some of these young athletes, we're going to start training for Milano 2026.
That, of course, includes Jonathan.
Of course, I want to be in the big Olympics, the Milano Cortina, hopefully. I'm going to try everything that I can, work hard to qualify for that.
Helping these athletes realize their dreams, the New Horizons Academy shows that nothing is impossible.
I believe. So you have to believe too, and do what you can do, work hard, and you will achieve what you can.
First question is about
송유진, 아리랑 뉴스, 평창.
Good morning, I'm Kim Si-young, and now we turn over to stories from around the world. We begin today in Turkey, where 2 masked gunmen attacked a Roman Catholic church on Sunday during morning service, killing 1 person. Following the morning attack in the capital, Istanbul, Turkey's interior minister confirmed later in the day that the 2 suspects have since been captured. The Islamic State group has claimed responsibility, posting on Telegram on Sunday that 2 of its fighters carried out the attack and fled to safety. The Turkish government has not yet confirmed the motive. The shooting took place at the Church of Santa Maria, located at the Bosphorus on the European side of Istanbul. As seen on the CCTV footage released by Turkish media, the 2 gunmen followed a man who had just entered during the Sunday Mass at around 11:40 a.m. and shot him, which fatally wounded the victim. The assailants were seen calmly leaving the scene. The Vatican offered support as the Pope expressed closeness to the community of Santa Maria Church in his weekly prayer. Now moving over to Iran, where the state-run IRNA news agency reported on Sunday that Tehran has successfully launched 3 satellites into space. Sunday's launch also reportedly saw the successful use of Iran's previously failed Simorgh rocket. Iran state TV showed the nighttime launch at the Imam Khomeini spaceport in rural Semnan province. The payload included 3 satellites, Mahda, Kayhan-2 and Hatef-1. The agency described Mahda as the research satellite, while the Kaihan and Hatef were nanosatellites for global positioning and communication. After 5 failed launches for the CMORG program, the space rocket reportedly saw its first successful liftoff. The West has been expressing concerns over Iran's space program for its potential contribution to Tehran's ballistic missile capabilities. UN sanctions in relation to Iran's ballistic missile program expired October last year. Next, in finance news, the billionaire chairman and CEO of the global luxury goods company LVMH, Bernard Arnault, has once again become the world's richest man. LVMH's share prices shot up on Friday as the news of strong sales hit the trading floors. According to Forbes' real-time billionaires list, Arnault and his family's net worth increased to $207.8 billion after the $23.6 billion increase on Friday, beating Tesla CEO Elon Musk, whose net worth remains at $204.5 billion. Arnault's 5 children all work at LVMH, where 2 of his sons were recently appointed to the company's board. In sports news, 22-year-old Italian Yannick Sinner pulled off a comeback in the men's tennis final against world number 3 Russian Daniil Medvedev to win the 2024 Australian Open. The world number 4 beat Medvedev 3-2, having come back from being 2 sets down. Sinner had put an end to world number 1 Novak Djokovic's 33-match winning streak in the semi-final. Sinner is the first Italian to win an Australian Open. He is also the youngest man to win the Australian Open since Djokovic in 2008.
Good morning. Today looks to be a repeat of yesterday's conditions, mostly temperature-wise. Then we can look forward to an even warmer afternoon on Tuesday. But of course, it's that ultra-fine dust that will be sweeping most central parts of Korea. Jeollado and Gyeongsangdo provinces will also see dust levels rising at night. And unfortunately, tomorrow looks to be a dusty one for most parts of Korea. Meanwhile, many areas of Gangwon province are still dealing with freezing temperatures under cold wave alerts this morning, but athletes should notice a big rise in highs this afternoon under bright skies. Afternoon highs in Seoul top out at 4 degrees, Busan and Jeju get up to 9 degrees Celsius under sunny skies nationwide today. But East Coast regions are under a dry weather advisory. Then we can expect warmer than average temperatures this week with frequent rain or snow in the forecast for southern provinces. So please take the weather into account and plan accordingly this week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for Tuesday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.